can't go out, hang out with people of the same age. It must feel very lonely. Hey everyone, Henry Yellow here, welcome back. Right now we are going to watch The Last Emperor from 1987. This movie is 3 hours and 38 minutes long. It is the longest movie that I've ever watched in my life up till now. If you'd love to see my full reaction to this movie, then go ahead and check out my Patreon. The link is in the description below. And if you enjoy my reactions, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications. I hope the movie has an intermission in the middle so I can go on a toilet break, maybe eat a snack or stretch my body, because it sounds like a really long time. Anyways, are you ready? Let's go.
War criminals must proceed to the main waiting room. Those caught talking will be severely punished.
What do they think they're doing? It is dangerous.
Oh! He slit his wrists. He's not going to allow himself to be captured.
Open the door! Open the door!
Oh, all the way back to 1908.
By the command of Her Imperial Majesty, Isinjuro Puyi shall be transferred immediately to the Forbidden City.
That would sound so much better if he spoke in Mandarin or Cantonese.
Admiral, I am giving you my son. My son is your son.
Quick, quick!
I want to go home.
Look at all the camels. And look at the Forbidden City.
Smart child.
I am the Grand Empress Dowager. These other men, they are all eunuchs.
Oh, the whole throne can move. That's awesome.
You will be the new lord of 10,000 years, the son of heaven.
Whoa, that gave me goosebumps. That was her last words. Becoming an emperor at such a young age must be an achievement, a world record. Ooh.
Cricket! Where's the cricket?
Ah, see? He is kowtowing to your majesty. Now he can be the Emperor's cricket.
Where am I?
In the People's Republic of China.
Why did you stop me? You would kill me anyway.
You will be kept alive until you have been judged.
Look, this little one is Your Majesty's bedroll.
Am I going home today?
Not today. Not yet. I give Your Majesty the gate of martial valor. Because today I know me.
Wow. He could judge the emperor's health based on the smell of his poop.
Is it true? I can do anything I want?
Anything you want. You are the lord of 10,000 years.
That's too much power to give a kid.
I want to go home! I want to go home! I want to go home! I want to go home!
He can request to see his mom, right? Since he can do anything he wants.
Fujie,
the Emperor's brother, His Excellency Bu Tian.
Oh, step right over him. Yo, her hair.
How is the health of His Majesty's mother?
It is better, thank you.
My mother has not seen me for 7 years.
Do you remember my face?
No.
Hmm,
We are all very proud of you.
so formal. I wonder why his mother wasn't allowed to be at his side.
They're turning away.
Ordinary people are not allowed to look at the Emperor. I am too important.
Oh, they can't even look.
If I am naughty, someone else is punished. One of them. I have never met other children.
If you come to our house, you can play with us.
The Emperor never leaves the palace.
We play games together.
I know a game too. Run!
Oh my goodness. I pity the people who have to carry that other guy. I think he must at least have a few thousand people serving under him.
The ones on the boat are the high consuls. The wives of the Emperor before me.
Wait, I thought the wives of previous emperors have to die with him. I thought they would all have to take poison and be buried together with the emperor. He can't have friends, he can't go out, hang out with people of the same age. It must feel very lonely.
In February 1912, 2,000 years of imperial rule came to an end. China became a republic. The emperor's title was retained and not abolished. The republic also guaranteed to protect the imperial tombs in perpetuity. The dynasty surrendered forever its right to rule the country.
Why are you wearing that? You are not allowed to wear yellow.
But it is ordinary yellow.
It is imperial yellow. Take it off.
No, and you're not the emperor anymore.
What did you say?
You're not the emperor. You're not the emperor.
They're not helping at all.
Your Majesty will always be the Emperor.
You see?
Prove it.
Drink it.
Collateral damage. What? Why are you making people drink ink?
I will show you.
My god, stop it. You're gonna cause trouble for more people.
See? That is a car. He's the president of the republic.
If the emperor was not made aware of this agreement, then who made the deal?
High Tutor, am I still the Emperor?
You will always be the Emperor inside the Forbidden City. Outside China is now a republic with a president.
Where is Amma?
Let me say goodbye.
Hurry.
Amma?
Your Majesty is a big boy now. He cannot have a wet nurse anymore. It is much better like this.
But she is not my wet nurse.
She is his mother, his emotional support.
This is the detention center of the Fushun Bureau of Public Security. And I am the governor. Why did you betray your own country? What turned you into war criminals? We believe that the only way to change is to discover the truth and look at it in the face. You will begin by writing the story of your lives and by confessing your crimes.
We must stick to the same story, or they would turn our words against us.
Twilight.
After a few years, the Chinese Republic had become as corrupt as the old empire. The era of the warlords had begun.
The warlord era.
Did you know they're now selling electro boats on the stock market? Nothing has changed with the Republic. You're one of the first foreigners with an official post in the Forbidden City since Marco Polo.
It makes me very nervous.
The Emperor is honored to welcome his tutor.
Your tutor is honored to have been chosen, Your Majesty.
One more time. Your Imperial Highness, Mr. Reginald Fleming Johnston.
How do you do, Mr. Johnston?
In my country, it would be usual to begin with some kind of an examination.
The Emperor cannot be examined.
Well, that may have to change. If you cannot say what you mean, you will never mean what you say, and a gentleman should always mean what he says.
I'm not a gentleman. I'm not allowed to say what I mean. They're always telling me what to say.
What is this supposed to be, like a sushi conveyor belt?
The official taste is a brave man. Many of my ancestors have been poisoned, you know.
The taster gets to enjoy a lot of food.
Something is happening. Tell them to be quiet.
Silence!
Did you just throw the mouse? Oh. I think they're shooting the rioters.
They were protesting against the Republican government because it has agreed to give away Chinese territory to Japan.
I'm angry, but I'm not allowed to leave the Forbidden City. I want to go out, Mr. Johnston.
My lord.
Change
Because nobody would dare treat the emperor this way or touch the emperor. So he had to resort to this method just to have physical touch, like this kind of social interaction. It's kind of sad, really.
For Your Majesty.
My doctor said bicycles are bad for you.
Bad for you, nonsense. Head up and eyes forward.
My mother's dead, is she not?
Yes, Your Majesty. I'm profoundly sorry.
I'm not. She swallowed a ball of opium. I'm going to see her.
She was barely his mother, but it seems like he still feels sad for her death.
Open the door! Open the door!
Why take it out on the mouse? The mouse didn't deserve that. He can't even attend his own mother's funeral. You can see that nobody has really taken care of the place. It's a mess.
Foreign devil! Infernal machine! Look where you leave him!
And you are an old, cruel, ignorant man. The boy's mother is dead, and he's not even allowed to see her.
I want to go!
Stop it! Stay back! You fool! Stay back!
Give me your hand, sir. Can you not see?
Oh, that's when he needs glasses.
Well, it's perfectly simple, Johnston. The Emperor needs spectacles.
An emperor does not wear spectacles.
That cannot be allowed.
Why would that not be allowed? They're just being difficult.
If His Majesty doesn't get spectacles, Johnston, he could lose his sight.
Unfortunately, our decision is final. The Emperor has been a prisoner in his own palace since the day that he was crowned and has remained a prisoner since he abdicated. I think the Emperor is the loneliest boy on earth.
Mm-hmm.
It would be conveniently sad if he becomes blind.
Ah, convenient.
to the cost of maintaining 1,200 eunuchs, 185 cooks, plus one Lord Chamberlain care only about one thing, filling their own rice bowls.
What do you really want, Mr. Johnston?
Just the spectacles.
He was offering a bribe. He is in disbelief. You really don't want any bribe, any money? No, Mr. Johnston does not want that.
The Princess Wang Yun, Your Majesty. 17 years old. Princess Wu Zhen, 15 years old.
Who is this?
Princess Wen Shu, 12 years old.
Who would choose to marry him and then be imprisoned in this forbidden city?
One empress and one secondary consort. They chose her. She's very old, Johnston. She's 17.
It's not so old, Your Majesty.
Yeah, 17 is old. Oh, the girl nearly fell off the stairs.
Your Mongolian cousin, Prince Demchukadong Group, has sent you 12 racing camels, plus this, a lump of coal.
What does that mean? Peking opera?
Is the emperor against arranged marriages?
It is humiliating not to choose whom you marry.
Even I was not allowed to choose.
Oh, she was on high heels. Is it the story of the Monkey King? There's been a lot of kissing. This should be a very private moment, and there are people there helping them to remove their clothes. Really no privacy at all.
Leave us. Leave us. If Your Majesty thinks it is old-fashioned to make the rain and the wind with a stranger, we can be like a modern couple. Good night. I am sure I am going to like him.
Prisoner 981 reporting. Open the door.
Name? Aixing Jero Pu Yi. Read that aloud. Leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist, redemption to those who gain merits.
There are two types of confession, toothpaste and water tap. The toothpaste prisoner needs to be squeezed every now and then. A water tap man need one good hard twist before he starts. But then everything comes out. Why do you think you're in here?
I am accused of being a traitor, a collaborator.
It is not an accusation. You are a traitor, you are a collaborator, and you are a counter-revolutionary.
Oh, his face turned red real fast.
What do you want me to confess?
We don't tell people what to confess. We already know everything about you.
I wanted reforms.
What did you want to reform?
Everything.
Chang, you have a house outside the Forbidden City.
And you also have houses.
When will Your Majesty?
The many pieces from the imperial collections are on sale in the antique shops of Peking. Is that true, Chang?
Everyone is pocketing profits and gains for themselves.
The emperor before me was murdered because he wanted to reform the empire. Let us see if they will kill me for reforming the Forbidden City.
The poet and scholar Chen Shaoshu to be the new Lord Chamberlain. Supervise a detailed inventory of the imperial storerooms.
So that we can learn exactly how much has been stolen.
Oh, he has a gun. All right, that's a good protection.
Can I stay with you as well?
Get in.
Fire.
Your Majesty. The storeroom's on fire, Your Majesty.
Oh no. They're using the fire to cover up the evidence of their corruption.
The units set fire to this place to stop me knowing what they had stolen. I'm going to expel them from the Forbidden City. I lived with them all my life, Johnston. They're my family.
What are they carrying?
Their organs.
Whatever their crimes, they cannot be deprived of the right to be buried as whole men.
How did your friendship with the Japanese begin?
Who introduced you? When?
I think it was the new Lord Chamberlain, Chen Xiaoshu.
The rotten government of the Republic is in flight. Now we shall remove the foreign stench of the Manchurian rats who still hide in the Forbidden City.
Mr. Puyi and his family have been given 1 hour to leave the Forbidden City. What are you standing there for? You always wanted to leave the Forbidden City. Go!
Yeah, he's always wanted to leave, but not like this.
I always thought I hated it here. Now I'm afraid to leave.
You must do as they say, Your Majesty. While I try to reach the British Embassy, they will give you asylum there.
He spent almost 20 years stuck in the Forbidden City.
But you didn't go to the British Embassy, did you?
The Japanese were the only people prepared to help me. There was even an anti-Manchurian league who wanted to assassinate me. So I went to live in Tianjin.
The Anti-Manchu League was largely financed by the Japanese. It was designed to frighten you.
I did not know that at the time. I spent a lot of money in Tianjin. Oh, I was never tired of buying pianos, watches.
As long as they were foreign.
Of course.
Any problem with that?
Especially Wrigley's chewing gum, Bayer aspirin.
I know Wrigley's chewing gum.
I felt useless in Tianjin. I was 21. I became a playboy.
Became a playboy even though you already had 2 beautiful wives.
Am I blue? You be too. If each plan with your garden fell through.
Nobody here would have danced with me.
Why is that?
Because I'm Chinese.
Well, I'm American.
Yeah?
What do you think of General Chiang Kai-shek?
He's just another warlord.
He has smashed the communists.
The communists were his sworn allies until a few days ago.
The dogs really match the fur coats they're wearing.
Wunshu, you want some gum?
Wrigley's chewing gum.
I do not want to be your mistress any longer.
I thought you were my secondary consort.
You can only have one wife in the West. I want a divorce.
No one can divorce me.
If you're considered his mistress, doesn't that mean you're not officially married? I don't know how it works.
I did not mean it. I did not mean it.
Rain, symbolizing the washing away of her past self.
Elizabeth, can I come in? Don't you remember me?
Easton Chu. We had dancing classes together.
Yes, just before your marriage.
You smoke opium?
You wicked. It's the best in Shanghai. I'm a spy. I work for the Japanese Special Service Bureau. And I've come to protect you.
From who?
Of course, I'd love to be the Emperor's new secondary consort.
Eastern Jewel. The post is vacant, my dear cousin. But you do not fit the part.
I was gonna say I can't believe he said that in front of his wife.
It is my fault. It is all my fault.
It's nobody's fault. At least now Wen-Su can forge ahead her own path in life. Good for her.
The imperial tombs of our Manchurian ancestors have been attacked by troops of the Kuomintang. The body of the Empress Dowager was hacked to pieces.
Dang, won't even spare the body. Disrespect to the dead.
Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931 and began to set up a puppet state called Manchukuo. The Japanese delegation paid you a secret visit in Tianjin to request your collaboration.
I refused to collaborate.
But a month later, there you are, arriving in Manchuria, or should I call it Manchukuo. You insist that you were kidnapped by the Japanese.
Yes.
And taken to Manchuria by force.
Yes.
Do you remember a man called Reginald Fleming Johnston? He wrote a book. It is called Twilight in the Forbidden City, and it is dedicated to you.
How can we say goodbye?
As we said hello.
Farewell, Mr. Johnston.
Farewell, Your Majesty.
The endeavor to make out that the Emperor had been kidnapped by the Japanese is wholly untrue. Will.
Johnston was a liar. Mr. Johnston had left before I was taken to Manchuria. He could not have known what happened.
They invited Johnston here? No.
You prepared the man's things on the morning of November 9th. Isn't it unusual for a man who is kidnapped to have his luggage packed the day before he's kidnapped?
Perhaps I made a mistake.
You're both lying!
Control yourself.
My family was buried alive in Manchukuo. My mother dig her own grave because of people like them. Enough.
He's got a personal grudge.
I am the hereditary ruler of the Manchurian people. There can be no Manchukuo without me.
The Japanese are using you.
The Chinese Republic has broken every promise it ever made to me. Chinese troops desecrated the tombs of my ancestors. I'm going to build my country.
I can't believe he kept the lump of coal.
If you go, you betray your country!
Which country?
You went to Manchuria by your own choice because you wanted to be emperor again.
To the sun.
It's a very nice scene. I mean, beautiful scenery.
I'm going to train at a secret base near Yokohama to learn precision bombing. I want to bomb Shanghai. I hate China. I hate you.
He only has one arm. Pretty sure he had both arms the last time we saw him.
On behalf of the Emperor of Japan, extends his warmest congratulations on the occasion of His Majesty's coronation.
Oh, nice. It was a mirror. Not sure if that's edible.
My wife, the Princess Hirosaka. Prime Minister Xiao Shu.
Hajimemashite.
She's saying Hajimemashite, which means nice to meet you. I'm very worried about her eating those flowers.
And Mr. Amakasu is the new chief of the Manchurian Motion Picture Studios.
Oh, that's why he's handling all the camera recording.
Do you have to spoil this day? Why?
Mr. Amakasu is the most powerful man in Manchukuo.
What are you talking about?
You are blind.
Ooh, they're cleverly keeping the camera out of frame.
Why do you not make love to me anymore?
Because you have become an opium addict.
All because of Eastern Jewel.
We must have a child. We must have an heir.
Opium, a terrible addiction. I think Eastern Jewel planned this all along. I don't know what her intentions are. That's what I call a friend's terrible influence.
I told you, I hate you. Only because I give you what you need.
Oh, I thought she was gonna give her a foot massage. Nope. Kids, don't do drugs.
Good morning.
Does he really need someone to help him wear his shoes?
You forgot my tooth powder.
Oh.
Oh, come on. Put it on yourself.
Move it. 981. Collect your things.
And they even collect it for him.
Thursday you serve lunch. Friday you clean the toilet. Saturday you sweep the floor.
I have never been separated from my family.
You'd better get used to it.
The same dragon design as on Wan Zhong's wedding veil.
What has happened here? Why has my god been disarmed?
There have been many changes while you are in Tokyo.
Why is Prime Minister Xiaoshu not here to receive me?
The Prime Minister has resigned, Your Majesty. His son has been assassinated. Who are you? Zhang Jinhui, Your Majesty, Minister of Defense.
The Emperor has been asked to sign the following: to nominate the Honorable Jiang Qinwei as the new Prime Minister of Manchukuo. No. This is based on mutual respect. And respect means equality and independence.
Manchukuo is not a colony. Manchukuo is Manchuria. In the desire to preserve our ancient traditions and in a mutual respect for our national identities.
No one supports him. He realizes that he has no power after all. Just a figurehead. Again.
You were right. I was blind.
I'm going to have a child. The father is Manchurian.
She cheated on him.
I did it for you.
His Majesty forgot to sign the appointment of the new Prime Minister.
I did not forget.
If India has to pay for the cost of its own occupation, so must Manchukuo.
We hope Manchukuo will have an heir. The Empress is expecting a child.
Not his child.
This is the name of the father.
They've been watching her all along.
His name is Chang. He is your driver.
Ho ho! And the sun sets. The whole tone becomes warm to cold.
The man will be punished. The emperor cannot allow his honor to be stained. The Japanese are the only divine race on earth. We will take China, Siam, Malaya, Singapore.
No, they won't. Malaya was the former name of Malaysia. Woo! Oh, okay, that was the driver, right? They killed the driver who got Wan Zhong pregnant.
You were issued with the same clothes as everyone else. Why can't you learn to look after yourself? There have been complaints from your cellmates. Learn how to urinate at night without waking them all up. Urinate against the side of the bucket, not into the middle.
Makes sense. I guess he never learned how. All his life, he's never learned how to take care of himself.
This is the last time! The last time! This is the last time!
Why do you think Big Lee has been in prison all this time?
Because he was my servant.
So do you think it is unjust that your loyal servant is punished for serving you? He's being released today.
That's good for him.
This is my wife. We had 3 children. You know nothing about me.
You talk of your past as if you were the only one who suffered. Stop hiding behind your private story.
You're just pretending you have changed. I know who you all are. The Minister of Trade, responsible for the starvation in Manchukuo.
The party teaches us to be new men.
You worked in Amakasu's private office. You are still the same people. People do not change.
The baby was born dead, Your Majesty.
You killed him. They arranged for the baby's death. They don't want him to have an heir. Everyone is plotting against him. Now they're even taking Wanzhong away so they can properly control him. They're tightening the noose around his neck. This is the second Forbidden City. It's even the same kind of red door.
The attack on Shanghai was one of the first civilian bombing raids in history. Thousands homeless, thousands dead. Trying to terrorize the rest of China into surrender, 200,000 civilians were systematically executed.
Buried alive?
Manchu Kuo was still ruled by the puppet emperor Wu Yi.
Puppet Emperor.
Japanese experiments in biological warfare carried out on live human beings. Opium production became the easiest way to finance the war. People were deliberately turned into drug addicts.
This is still happening today, using drugs, and in some cases, maybe even using the media.
On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced the surrender of Japan.
You must surrender to the Americans, not the Russians. The communists will kill everyone.
The Russians have reached Harbin. We must leave at once.
He said the Russians. The subtitles were wrong.
The Empress must not know you have seen her like that.
Oh my goodness, she looks pale. How did they treat her in the hospital? Could it be because of her opium addiction? She's a shell of her former self. All because of the machinations of the Japanese.
Why did you sign every accusation made against you? I didn't stop you from killing yourself to see you like this.
I was responsible for everything.
You are responsible for what you do. All your life, you thought you were better than everyone else. Now you think you're the worst of all.
He still, tried to properly reform Pu Yi. Unlike the other guy would have completely condemned him, accepted all his signatures and all the accusations, and maybe have Pu Yi executed.
The war criminal Aisin Jiro Pu Yi has now served 10 years detention. He has shown that he has genuinely reformed. He is therefore to be released. You see, I will end up living in prison longer than you.
Technically, he went back to Peking, 1967. Is this a race? Oh no, traffic light. Wow, no cars around at all. Yeah, the start of the Cultural Revolution.
It is the governor of our prison.
Oh.
It is. I'm sure it is.
This must be a mistake. I know this man. He is a good man.
Join us, comrade, or pass off.
But what has he done?
He's been accused
of what?
Revenus element, rotten righteous, confess your crimes.
Nothing to confess.
Cut out. He is a good teacher. You cannot do this to him. Move.
Now the governor of the prison is being accused of a crime and forced to confess.
That is where I said I was the Emperor of China.
Prove it.
Prove it. He's gonna ask somebody to drink green ink? Oh, that's where the cricket was. Is there a dead cricket? Well, he vanished like a ninja. There's no way. That cricket would be 50, 60 years old.
The last emperor to be crowned here was Isidore Puyi. He died in 1967.
1967, he died. Which means he visited the Forbidden City one last time before he died. I didn't expect to see Peter O'Toole in this movie. I watched him in My Favorite Year. That reaction is a Patreon special, so you're not gonna find it on YouTube. Oh yeah, the music was actually pretty good too. It reminded me of Japanese anime music, like something that gives me a feeling of Spirited Away. Is this movie a true story? The movie is an epic biographical drama film about the life of Puyi, the last emperor of China. What about the historical accuracy of this movie? British historian Tunzelman wrote that the movie considerably downplays and misrepresents the emperor's cruelty, especially during his youth. Puyi engaged in sadistic abuse of palace servants and subordinates during his initial reign, frequently having eunuchs beaten for mild transgressions or no reason at all. That does sound more realistic. I mean, that's what you would expect from someone who has been crowned king and given so much power at such a young age. For an immature child like that, it's very easy to abuse his power. After all, there's no one who could teach the emperor manners, right? He's the highest power. No one's gonna punish him for behaving rudely or behaving badly. The young emperor once conspired to force a eunuch to eat a cake full of iron fillings simply to see the eunuch's reaction. Thankfully, his beloved wet nurse talked him out of it. I feel like this is way more realistic and makes much more sense. There are several other historical inaccuracies. In real life, Puyi left the Forbidden City when his mother died. Oh, so he was allowed to leave when his mother died. He did not have sex with his wives. That's actually very surprising. He actually stopped the Japanese from killing the empress' lover rather than let him be murdered. Oh, I wonder why though. He could have easily had the driver killed, which he did in the movie. The testimonies that Puyi gives to his Chinese interrogators were in fact given at the Tokyo trials. The Tokyo trials were also known as the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal, and it was a military trial to try the leaders of the Empire of Japan for their crimes against peace, conventional war crimes, and crimes against humanity. Okay, let's take a look at a little bit of the real history of the last emperor. I won't spend too long over here because I've just spent over 3 hours watching a movie. I'm feeling quite tired, but let me just quickly go through a summary of his actual history and then talk a little bit about the movie before I end the video. Puyi, the final emperor of China, was the 11th monarch of the Qing dynasty from 1908 to 1912. When the previous emperor died, Empress Dowager picked Puyi, aged 2 at the time, to succeed the throne. He did not look 2 years old in the movie. That's why I kind of guessed his age wrongly. So he was really so young. No wonder he grew up not being able to take care of himself. He never learned how to. All his needs were served by all his servants. And it's only natural for a child who was so spoiled to become, well, spoiled and cruel and treating people like his playthings. Nobody would punish him. Nobody would teach him good manners. Nobody would tell him, what he should do and what he shouldn't do. That's too much power for a child, for a baby. Puyi's father, Prince Chun, was the one who served as a regent before Puyi was forced to abdicate as a result of the Xinhai Revolution. So a regent basically means that Puyi's father was in charge of everything because Puyi was too young. The Xinhai Revolution ended 2 millennia of imperial rule and established the Republic of China. On that evening when Puyi was taken away, he screamed and resisted as the officials ordered the eunuch attendants to pick him up. His parents said nothing when they learned that they were losing their son. Considering that they were under imperial rule and any decree by the emperor has to be obeyed, I'm not surprised that they didn't try to stop them, because they would be heavily punished with death if they did. Only Puyi's wet nurse was allowed to go with him. When he arrived at the Forbidden City, he was taken to see Cixi. Cixi refers to the Empress Dowager because that's her name, Dowager Cixi. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I'll just say Dowager, that'll be easier. Puyi wrote, I remember suddenly finding myself surrounded by strangers. Before me was hung a drab curtain through which I could see an emaciated and terrifying hideous face. It is said that I burst into loud howls at the sight and started to tremble uncontrollably. What a naughty child, the Empress said. Take him away to play. The Empress actually died less than 2 days after that meeting. In the movie, she died, well, within minutes, which was clearly a Hollywood exaggeration. But in real life, she actually died less than 2 days after that meeting, so I guess it wasn't exaggerated that much. Puyi did not see his biological mother for the next 7 years. That part was true. He developed a special bond with Wang. Wang is Armo in the movie, that's his wet nurse, and credited her as the only person who could control him. But she was sent away when he was 8 years old. Growing up with scarcely any memory of a time when he was not indulged and revered, Puyi quickly became spoiled. That's not surprising at all. Everyone was a stranger, they were remote, they were distant, and they were unable to discipline him. Wherever he went, people would kneel down in a ritual kowtow, averting their eyes until he passed. Imagine that. Like, since you were a child, no one would give you any eye contact. Maybe except his wet nurse. But besides her, like, after she was sent away, no one would even look him in the eye. Isn't that crazy? How is he going to have any proper social interaction? He had none. Soon he discovered the absolute power he wielded, and he frequently had his eunuchs beaten for small transgressions. Yeah, he's venting. He's venting all his, I don't know if you'd call it trauma, but he's venting all his bottled up feelings. Every whim was catered to, while no one ever said no to him, making him into a sadistic boy who loved to have his eunuchs flogged or forced to eat dirt. Puyi himself later said, flogging eunuchs was part of his daily routine. Daily. My cruelty and love of wielding power were already too firmly set for persuasion to have any effect on me. This kid needs to be taught a lesson, but nobody would teach him that lesson. This is a picture of Puyi and his little brother and his father. Puyi was surrounded by people who treated him like a god. His upbringing was a mixture of pampering and mistreatment, as he was required to follow all the rules of rigid Chinese imperial protocol, and he was unable to behave like a normal child. He was expected to behave like an emperor, always keeping himself up to standard and rigid and formal. That's very restrictive on a child. I guess that's why he had to vent. The eunuchs were slaves who did everything. The Forbidden City was full of treasures that the eunuchs constantly stole and sold on the black market. All the eunuchs were engaged in this corruption. Puyi never had any privacy and had all his needs attended to at all times. The eunuchs opened the doors for him, dress him, wash him, and even blow air into his soup to cool it. If you have servants who do all these things for you without you having a choice in the matter, then even if you're not a lazy person, you're going to become a lazy person. Imagine that, like having every single one of your needs met. Well, not just needs, but having doors open for you, people dress you, people wash you, people bathe you, people cool down your food for you, people feed you. Like, you don't even engage your mind. How do you ever learn to be independent and take care of yourself. Your mind will eventually stagnate. At his meals, Puyi was always presented with a huge buffet containing every conceivable dish, the vast majority of which he did not eat. Well, yeah, being presented with a buffet at every meal, that is an absolute luxury. I'm sure the vast majority of the food he did not eat goes to the eunuchs, so they get to eat and finish the dishes. Every day he wore new clothing, as the emperors never reused their clothing. I'm sure it was very easy for the eunuchs to collect all these clothes that have only ever been worn once to be sold elsewhere. They're not cheap clothes either, because they're clothes worn by the emperor. According to Puyi, by the end of his wedding ceremony, the pearls and jade in the empress' crown had been stolen. Wow. Locks were broken, areas ransacked. That's bold. The fire that we saw in the movie to burn down the storehouse, that actually happened. It was arson to cover the theft and corruption. The emperor overheard a conversation among the eunuchs that made him fear for his life, and that's why he evicted all the eunuchs. This small little part was not mentioned in the movie, I think. There was a brief restoration where the warlord Zhang Xun restored Puyi to the throne. The then premier of the Republic of China ordered a plane to drop 3 bombs over the Forbidden City as a show of force against Zhang Xun, causing the death of a eunuch, but otherwise inflicting minor damage. Now we have the relationship with Reginald Johnston. Johnston was actually restricted. He wasn't allowed to teach Puyi a lot of things, but he disregarded the rules and taught Puyi about world history with a special focus on British history. Johnston had more influence than his title of English tutor would suggest. The eunuchs began to rely on him to steer Puyi away from his more capricious moods. Under Johnston's influence, Puyi started to insist that his eunuchs address him as Henry. Puyi began to speak Chinglish, a mixture of Mandarin and English. Interesting. In 1922, the High Consorts decided that Puyi should be married, and they gave him a selection of photographs to choose from. So that scene was also based on fact. Puyi first chose Wen Xiu as his wife, but was told that she was acceptable only as a concubine, so he would have to choose again. He then chose Wan Rong, the daughter of one of Manchuria's richest aristocrats. Puyi did not meet Wan Rong until their wedding. In a sense, this was an arranged marriage because his first choice wasn't allowed. On his wedding night, Puyi, Wan Rong, and Wen Xiu went to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. What a nice name. Where everything was red, the color of love and sex in China, and where emperors had traditionally consummated their marriages. In that case, it really shouldn't be called Earthly Tranquility. Puyi fled from the bridal chamber because he was sexually inexperienced, no surprise there, and he left his wives to sleep in the dragon bed by themselves. I'm sure his wives also didn't have that kind of experience before. It's not like they're gonna be taught sex education. Wan Rong's younger brother said Wan Rong and Puyi seemed to get on well. They were like kids together. Of course, they were kids. To have them play around, get to know each other, having fun, that's normal and that's the way it should be. There are also some statements which implied that Puyi was gay. After Puyi was expelled from the Forbidden City, he eventually went to the Japanese legation. Originally, he wanted to go to the British, but Johnston insisted that he would be safer with the Japanese. So Johnston was the one who influenced his decision at the time. Next comes an entire story about many warlords who approached him and promised to restore him to the throne if he gave them enough money. And then when he gave them the money, then they kept all the money for themselves. So basically it's like they tricked him of his money because Puyi was too easily scammed. Some people even borrowed money from Puyi and never repaid. Puyi was like fat sheep to be slaughtered. He had the money, but he didn't know how to keep that money. That's why he was always besieged with visitors asking him for money. He was often bored with his life and engaged in a lot of shopping to compensate, buying a lot of pianos, watches, clocks, radios. I think he mentioned this in the movie too. This is Pu Yi and Wan Rong in Tianjin in the 1920s. Wan Rong continued to smoke opium recreationally during this period. Wan Rong complained that her life as an empress was extremely dull, as the rules forbade her from going out dancing. It forced her to spend her days in traditional rituals that she found to be meaningless. She wanted to go out dancing, play tennis, wear Western clothes and makeup, listen to jazz music, and socialize with her friends, but all the courtiers objected. That's the thing, when you follow certain traditions or rules, it just restricts you so much. When times change, people have to change along with it. Otherwise, you're just living in the past, living with old traditions. We should adapt when there's a need to adapt. Pu Yi's concubine declared that she had had enough, and she walked out, filing for divorce. So that actually happened. In 1935, Wan Rong engaged in an affair with Pu Yi's chauffeur that left her pregnant. To punish her, Wan Rong's baby was killed. There are two accounts of what happened after the baby's murder. One account said that Pu Yi lied to Wan Rong and that her daughter was being raised as a nanny, so she never knew about her daughter's death. The other account said that Wan Rong found out about it and lived in a constant daze of opium consumption thereafter. Pu Yi had known of what was being planned for the baby, but he did nothing. This means that Pu Yi did not come up with the plan. It was the Japanese who came up with the plan to kill the baby, but Pu Yi did nothing about it. A lot of things actually happened, but I will only talk about the very important parts, because if I had to go through all of this, it might take hours. Right now, I'm skipping to the scene where they were going to take a plane to go to Japan. Pu Yi and his party were taken prisoner by the Red Army, who initially did not know who Pu Yi was. Wan Rong was captured by the Chinese communist guerrillas on their way to Korea. Wan Rong was put on display in a local jail. In a delirious state of mind, she demanded for more opium, and she hallucinated that she was back in the Forbidden City. The people hated Pu Yi, so no one had any sympathy for Wan Rong, and they think it was a waste of time feeding her. In June 1946, Wan Rong starved to death in her jail cell. I don't think she deserved such an ending. I don't think she did anything that was particularly cruel, and she didn't do anything wrong. She was severely addicted to opium, yes. Of course, no one's gonna help her with that. If only they could have just given her a quicker death. The Soviets took Pu Yi to Chita and eventually to Khabarovsk, where he was treated well and allowed to keep some of his servants. As a prisoner, he spent his days praying and expected the prisoners to treat him as an emperor, and he slapped the faces of his servants when they displeased him. Clearly, he was still a prick. During his trial, he protected himself very well. Beer described Pu Yi on the stand as a consistent, self-assured liar, prepared to go to any lengths to save his skin. He was more than able to hold his own against defense lawyers. After the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949, Pu Yi was repatriated to China. He was of considerable value to Mao. Pu Yi, being the last emperor, was the epitome of all that had been evil in old Chinese society. If he could be shown to have undergone sincere change, what hope was there for the most die-hard counter-revolutionary? And that's why Pu Yi was subjected to remodeling to make him into a communist. He spent 10 years in the Fushun war criminals prison until he was declared reformed. He was often bullied by the others, who liked to humiliate the emperor. He might not have survived had the warden Jin Yuan not gone out of his way to protect him. This was Pu Yi's first time experiencing how it was like to be bullied by others. It's just a small taste of his own medicine. He had never brushed his teeth or tied his own shoelaces once in his life and had to do these basic tasks in prison. By the mid-1950s, he was overwhelmed with guilt and often told Jin that he felt utterly worthless to the point where he considered killing himself. Jin told him to express his guilt in writing. Sometimes he was taken out for tours in the countryside of Manchuria, and on one of those tours, he met a farmer's wife whose family had been evicted to make way for Japanese settlers, and they had almost starved to death while working as a slave in one of Manchukuo's factories. When Puyi asked her for forgiveness, she told him, "It's all over now, let's not talk about it," causing him to break down in tears. If only this scene was included in the movie, it would have been very touching. At another meeting, a woman described the mass execution of people from her village by the Japanese army, and she declared that she did not hate the Japanese. She retained her faith in humanity, which greatly moved Puyi. After Puyi was released from prison, one of the first things he did was to visit the Forbidden City as a tourist. He pointed out to other tourists that many of the exhibits were the things he had used in his youth. Imagine going on a tour of the Forbidden City with the Emperor himself. That's a unique experience, but I wonder if anyone actually believed him. At the age of 56, he married Li Shuxian, a hospital nurse. Li recalled in a 1995 interview that, "I found Puyi an honest man, a man who desperately needed my love and was ready to give me as much love as he could. When I was having even a slight case of flu, he was so worried I would die that he refused to sleep at night and sat by my bedside until dawn so he could attend to my needs." At the time, Puyi was an incredibly clumsy man. "Once, in a boiling rage at his clumsiness, I threatened to divorce him. On hearing this, he got down on his knees and with tears in his eyes, he begged me to forgive him. I shall never forget what he said to me. 'I have nothing in this world except you, and you are my life. If you go, I will die.' But apart from him, what did I ever have in the world?" Puyi showed remorse for his past actions, often telling her that yesterday's Puyi is the enemy of today's Puyi. Wow, his second marriage and the redemption, this scene that I just read, would have worked very well if it was included in the movie too. Then again, this interview was in 1995, so it was after the movie was released. Couldn't have been in the movie. In the 1960s, Puyi wrote his autobiography From Emperor to Citizen. The Red Guards attacked Puyi for his autobiographical book because it had been translated in English and French, which displeased them, and this led to copies of the book being burned in the streets. How crazy is that? Various members of the Qing family, including Pu Jie, who was Puyi's younger brother, had their homes raided and burned by the Red Guards. I'm telling you, these people are mad. Jin Yuan, the man who had remodeled Puyi, fell victim to the Red Guard and became a prisoner for several years. And then Li Wenda, who had ghostwritten the book together with Puyi, spent 7 years in solitary confinement for ghostwriting the book. Puyi died in Beijing of complications arising from kidney cancer and heart disease on 1967 at the age of 61. Okay, that was the real history of Puyi. Oh my goodness, I've spent like nearly 2 hours Googling and reading this whole thing. Alright, let's come back to the movie. I'm just gonna make a few comments and then I'll probably go to sleep. Alright, so in the movie, the Puyi that we saw, to me, he feels like a prisoner. He was so lonely, he had no friends, no proper social interaction. It was a very lonely, tragic life. Just a puppet on a lonely string. Who would ever want to be king? He never learned how to tie his shoes or button his buttons or other basics that people normally learn as children or teenagers. I think what should have actually happened was he should have been allowed to live a normal life, not as an emperor, but as a normal child, so he could learn the things that you're supposed to learn as a child. A lot of the other things that I was wondering about got answered as I was going through Puyi's real-life history, so I guess I don't have to mention them. As for the cinematic composition mirror scene, the effect of the mirror as something that caught my attention. This scene makes you wonder why the camera isn't reflected in the mirror. And this one is a very nice view of the sky, symbolizing Puyi's appointment as the Son of Heaven again. That's about it. And I think this has been my longest recording ever. Right after this, I'm gonna get something to eat because I'm hungry and I'm sleepy, so I'm gonna go to bed. Well then, thanks for joining me on this movie reaction. If you have anything you'd like to share, then let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.